Welcome to Horrifying Obsession, where chilling, mysterious, and thrilling crime stories are told in detail. Today, we will explore a case that occurred in a peaceful small village in Đồng Tháp, Vietnam, in 2019. This case shocked many, not just for its brutality, but also because of the complex relationships behind jealousy and hatred. Let's follow the journey in search of the truth, as love is pushed to the extreme of crime and betrayal. On the evening of April 24, 2019, in a peaceful small village in Châu Thanh district, Đồng Tháp province, most villagers had already gone to bed early, except for a few who were still gathered to play Chinese chess. Nguyễn Văn Bảo, a man in his 50s, had a routine of playing Chinese chess every night after finishing his daily farm work. These evenings brought him a bit of joy, allowing him to escape the harsh worries of rural life. Bao no longer had his wife by his side to share daily life. She had passed away years ago after a long illness, leaving him and their two daughters. His youngest daughter, Nguyễn Thị Mai, had married and moved far away, leaving only his eldest daughter, Nguyễn Thị Mai, living with him in their small home. The father and daughter leaned on each other to get by. Mai was no longer young. At 35, she was still unmarried, a fact that constantly weighed on Bao's mind. That night, Bao returned home later than usual. The night was deep, and the bright moonlight illuminated the fields, making the narrow path from his friend's house to his home seem even longer in the faint glow. He walked slowly, thinking about his wife, remembering the old days when their family was still together. His wandering thoughts were abruptly interrupted as he approached his house. Everything was eerily silent. The house was completely dark, with no lights on. This made Bao feel uneasy. Though Mai usually went to bed early, he couldn't shake the growing sense of unease in his heart. His steps quickened as he neared the house. As he entered the yard, he noticed the door was slightly ajar. This further heightened his feeling of strangeness. Mai is always careful. Why is the door like this? He wondered. Entering the house, he quickly passed by his daughter's room. The moonlight from outside filtered through the window, casting a glow on the bed where Mai lay. But something was off. From the doorway, Bao could see Mai lying motionless. She wasn't using a mosquito net, nor was she covered by a blanket, and her body appeared completely still. Fearing that his daughter had caught a cold or was feeling unwell, Bao rushed into the room and switched on the light. The scene that greeted him left him frozen in place. Mai lay on the bed, her eyes tightly shut, her face pale, and her body ice cold. Her body was covered in strange bruises and swelling, details that sent a chill through Bao's spine. He tried to shake her awake, but there was no response. Fear overwhelmed him. "Mai, wake up!" he cried out in vain. But there was only silence. Faced with the horrifying sight of his daughter's lifeless body, Bao could only rush outside, shouting for help from the neighbors. As Bao ran out of the house, the night air was cold. The wind blew across the fields, carrying moisture from the nearby river. His body felt frozen, but the terror of seeing his daughter motionless on the bed drove him forward. He sprinted through the narrow alley, breathless and repeatedly calling the name of his closest neighbor, Lum, the person he knew would help in this situation. When he arrived, Bao could barely form words, managing only to stammer with a dry mouth. My daughter. Mai, she's dead." Lum jumped up, bombarding him with questions, but seeing Bao's frantic state, he wasted no time and immediately called the police. In no time, 2 police cars, sirens wailing, broke the stillness of the village. Curious villagers gathered near Bao's house, standing at a distance, watching as the police lights flashed and officers in uniform entered the home. The small, dilapidated house, with its cracked brick walls, had now become the focus of the entire village. Some whispered, others asked each other, "What happened to Mai?" But no one had the answer. Upon entering the house, the investigators noticed signs of disturbance. The living room appeared to have been ransacked, with a broken glass lying on the floor, surrounded by dried bloodstains. The TV cabinet drawer had been pulled out halfway, and there was a faint blood stain on the handle. A black coat was casually draped over a chair, an item Bao confirmed did not belong to the family. The police documented all these details while examining the room. As they entered the victim's bedroom, the officers were taken aback. Nguyễn Thị Mai, 35, lay on the bed in an unusual position. She was wearing a thin nightgown with no undergarments. Her body showed multiple bruises, swelling, and her knees were reddened as if she had been forced to kneel for an extended period. This left the investigators puzzled about what had happened before her death. But the most horrifying discovery, the one that sent shivers through the officers, was that Mai's mouth was filled with sand. The forensic doctors immediately noted this as a bizarre detail, unable to explain how sand could have entered the victim's mouth. Investigators collected samples of the sand for further testing while continuing to gather more clues from the room. During the autopsy, the forensic doctors uncovered another critical detail. Inside the victim's vagina, there were traces of semen from a man. This raised immediate suspicions that Mai may have been sexually assaulted. However, given the state of her clothing and her body position, the doctors speculated that this act may have occurred after her death. Additionally, Bao confirmed that he had left 200,000 VNB on a shelf for his daughter to use at the market the next day, and that this money, along with the gold necklace Mai usually wore, was now missing. However, other valuable items in the house appeared untouched, further confusing the investigators about the nature of the crime. Another detail that caught the attention of the investigators was the small bits of human skin found under Mai's fingernails, indicating that she had fought back before her death. The investigators collected blood samples and fingerprints from the scene and sent them for DNA analysis. The police quickly cordoned off the area, preventing anyone from entering or leaving Bao's house to preserve the crime scene. Although some of the evidence had been compromised by earlier intrusions, they still hoped to uncover crucial clues from the remaining details. In the days following the crime, the small village buzzed with talk about the mysterious death of Nguyễn Thị Mai. From roadside cafes to market gatherings, conversations were dominated by the incident. Rumors began to circulate. Mai wasn't killed by a thief. This wasn't just a robbery. Did you hear they found sand in her mouth? Who would do that to a dead person? These rumors only added to the intrigue and mystery surrounding the case. The police began to dig deeper into the victim's life to find clues about the killer. Within a few days, they uncovered a truth hidden behind Mai's quiet, gentle appearance. Nguyễn Thị Mai was not the woman many believed her to be. Despite not being married, Mai had been in a secret romantic relationship with Trần Văn Lup, a wealthy man in the area. This revelation took the investigation in an entirely new direction. Lup was already married to Trương Thị Ly, a woman known for her strictness and privacy in the village. This extramarital affair had not only caused problems within Lup's family, but also stirred the local community when it came to light. Neighbors recalled that before the murder, Lee had confronted Mai several times, demanding that she end the relationship with her husband. Though Mai initially agreed, it wasn't long before the two resumed their secret affair. The quiet conflicts and arguments between Lee and Mai continued without anyone in the village knowing. This led the police to suspect that the motive for the murder might involve this love triangle. Could it be that Lee had enough motive to kill her husband's mistress? On April 28th, the case took a dramatic turn. Trương Thị Ly, the wife of Trần Văn Lup, came to the police station and confessed that she was the murderer in the case of Nguyễn Thị Mai's death. Through tears and a state of hysteria, Lee revealed that she could no longer bear the betrayal of her husband and the secrecy of the woman she once considered a friend. She recounted that on the night of April 23rd, after hearing that her husband had left the house for unclear reasons, she suspected that he had gone to Mai's house. In a fit of jealousy, she decided to confront her rival herself. On her way, she picked up a wooden stick from a nearby workshop, intending to defend herself if necessary. When she arrived at Mai's house, she demanded that Mai open the door and talk. The two had a tense conversation, which quickly escalated into a heated argument. In a moment of uncontrollable rage and jealousy, Lee struck Mai on the head with the wooden stick, killing her instantly. Lee explained that after Mai's death, she didn't know what to do. In a panic, she tried to stage the scene to look like a robbery. She ransacked the drawers, taking 200,000 VND and Mai's gold necklace. Before leaving, she placed some sand into Mai's mouth, a mysterious act even Lee couldn't fully explain at the time. When the police asked her why she had done this, she quietly responded, "I wanted to make sure she would never be able to say anything again. She destroyed my family." The police carefully documented Lee's confession, noting every detail of her actions, from striking Mai with the stick to staging the crime scene. However, something in Lee's story still left the investigators with doubts. Lee described ransacking the victim's home to steal valuables, but during their investigation, the police noticed that nothing of true value had been taken, aside from the small amount of money and the necklace. Moreover, the scene appeared hastily staged, as if done in a moment of panic. Additionally, the act of placing sand in the victim's mouth seemed too strange to be a spontaneous decision made out of rage. The investigators began to question, was Lee truly the mastermind behind this murder, or was she covering for someone else? While Lee was held in custody for further questioning, the police continued to scrutinize the evidence at the scene. Despite her confession, several details did not fully convince the investigative team that she acted alone. The semen samples found in the victim's body, along with the traces of skin and blood left on the broken items at the scene, were undergoing DNA analysis. Although Lee confessed to being the murderer, the investigators felt the need to dig deeper. After all, if Lee was the sole perpetrator, how did the semen end up in the victim's body? Was she protecting her husband, Trun Van Lup? The police summoned Lup for questioning. Throughout the interrogation, Lup remained calm, denying any involvement in the crime. He admitted to having an affair with Nguyễn Thị Mai, but insisted that he was not at her home on the night of her death. Lup claimed that after leaving work late, he met with some friends for drinks until late into the night. The investigators began to doubt Lup's alibi. Although he had a temporary explanation for his whereabouts, it wasn't enough to prove his innocence. Meanwhile, the DNA results from the semen and other samples were slowly coming in. The DNA analysis delivered a surprising result. The semen found inside the victim matched Trun Van Lup's DNA. This proved that Lup had been at the scene and had engaged in sexual intercourse with the victim close to the time of her death. Faced with this undeniable evidence, Lup finally admitted that he had been at Nguyễn Thị Mai's house on the night of April 23rd. He confessed that, after playing cards and drinking, he had gone to Mai's house. At that time, her father, Bao, was out playing Chinese chess. Inside the house, it was just the two of them. Lup said that the two had consensual sex. However, Lup maintained that when he left Mai's house, she was still alive. He denied any involvement in her death. "I didn't kill Mai. When I left, she was fine. We had disagreements before, but I had no reason to harm her," he said. But the police were not easily convinced by Lup's testimony. His presence at the scene, combined with the complicated evidence of semen and the injuries on the victim's body, strongly suggested his direct involvement in Mai's death. Nonetheless, the central question remained: if Lup didn't kill Mai, then who did? As the police continued their investigation into Lup's role, a surprising new piece of evidence emerged. A cryptic text message sent from an unnamed number to Mai's phone on April 22nd, the day before the murder. The message's contents were full of longing and frustration. "My love, why won't you answer my calls? Don't you know I couldn't sleep last night? My heart aches. Do you not love me anymore? Please answer me." The phone number did not belong to Lup, but to another man in the village, a man with whom Mai had secretly been involved. The police quickly expanded their investigation and identified the sender as Hoang Van Tuan, a young man living in the same village who often encountered Mai at the market but left little impression on others. When questioned, Tuan admitted that he had been secretly involved with Nguyễn Thị Mai for the past few months. Although he was aware of her relationship with Trun Van Lup, Tuan continued to pursue her and had met with her in secret several times. However, Tuan denied having any involvement in her death and claimed that he had not been to her house on the night of the murder. The police saw this as a crucial lead and continued to probe deeper into Tuan's relationship with Mai. Could it be that Tuan, in a fit of jealousy and frustration at not being chosen by Mai, had killed her? While investigating Tuan's possible involvement, the police received an unexpected phone call from an unlikely source: Trung Thị Lee, the wife of Trun Van Lup. Lee revealed that, although she had confessed and taken responsibility for the crime, there was another truth she had not yet disclosed. Lee explained that on the night of April 23rd, when she heard her husband might be at Nguyễn Thị Mai's house, she had become consumed with jealousy and decided to confront them both. But when she arrived, she found not only her husband, but also another man in the house. That man was none other than Hoang Van Tuan, the young man with whom Mai had secretly been involved for a long time. Lee recounted that when she arrived at Mai's house that night, the door was slightly ajar. In a fit of rage, she entered without knocking and was met with the sight of both her husband, Trần Văn Lup, and Hoang Van Tuan, both looking startled and tense. Lee stormed in, demanding an explanation for what was going on. Unable to control her emotions, Lee began shouting and cursing at Mai. Tuan, who was younger and easily agitated, started yelling back at Lee, escalating the already tense situation. The small, enclosed space became a chaotic whirlwind of anger, with Lee's furious face turning red as she hurled accusations, and Tuan, in his frustration, raising his voice to defend himself. In the midst of the confusion, Lee grabbed the wooden stick she had brought along, threatening that if they didn't leave immediately, she wouldn't forgive them. But what Lee didn't expect was that Hoang Van Tuan, in a fit of rage, grabbed the stick from her hands and, in a moment of fury, struck Nguyễn Thị Mai on the head. The blow was so powerful that Mai collapsed onto the bed, blood flowing from the wound on her head. Lee remembered that terrifying moment clearly. I didn't mean to kill her, but when Tuan hit her, everything seemed to freeze. I was scared and didn't know what to do, she sighed. I thought about running, but when I saw her lying motionless on the bed, I realized I had become part of a terrible crime. According to Lee, after Tuan struck Mai, both Lee and her husband, Lup, were in shock. The three of them stood there, stunned, not knowing what to do next. Hoang Van Tuan, overwhelmed with panic and trembling, fled the scene without saying a word. After Tuan left, Lee and Lup were left staring at Mai's lifeless body. Lee began to worry about the consequences of their actions. A flood of questions raced through her mind. How can we get out of this? What will happen if the police find her body? Guilt and fear consumed them. Lee claimed that the two decided to stage the crime scene to make it look like a robbery. Lup deliberately ransacked the drawers in the living room and broke the glass to create signs of a burglary. Meanwhile, Lee tried to hide the evidence of the fight and the fatal blow. She also admitted that she took Mai's gold necklace and the 200,000 VN dine left by her father, intending to make the crime appear like a robbery gone wrong. The most bizarre part of the crime was her action of placing sand into Mai's mouth. Lee confessed that, in her moment of panic, she wanted to punish Mai for stealing her husband and destroying her family. She thought that putting sand in Mai's mouth would silence her forever, ensuring that she could never hurt her again. As the police listened to Lee's confession, the full picture of the crime began to come into focus. However, it was still necessary to apprehend Hoang Van Tuan and obtain his testimony. The police quickly launched a manhunt for Tuan, and after a brief chase, they found him hiding at a friend's house in a neighboring province. When Tuan was arrested, he initially denied all allegations, claiming that he had no involvement in Nguyễn Thị Mai's death. However, faced with overwhelming evidence, Tuan finally confessed to his crime. He admitted that he had been in love with Mai for a long time, but had come to realize that she only saw him as a tool to get back at Trần Văn Lup, the man she truly loved but couldn't have. Tuan explained that his unrequited love for Mai had slowly turned into resentment when he realized that she was only using him as a pawn in her twisted game of revenge against Lup. On the night of the murder, when Lee barged in and confronted them, all of Tuan's pent-up negative emotions erupted, and he lost control, attacking Mai in a fit of rage. With enough evidence collected, the police completed their investigation and brought Trung Thị Lee, Trần Văn Lup, and Hoang Van Tuan to trial. The trial, which was open to the public, attracted widespread attention from the local community and the media. People witnessed the tragic story of love, jealousy, and betrayal that led to the violent death of Nguyễn Thị Mai. Hoang Van Tuan, who delivered the fatal blow to Mai, was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder. Although he confessed to his crime and expressed remorse, the brutality of his actions left no room for leniency under the law. Trung Thị Lee, though not directly responsible for the murder, was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her involvement in covering up the crime and staging the false robbery. Her guilt extended beyond just the cover-up, as her long-standing emotional turmoil played a role in the tragic outcome. Trun Van Lup, though not the murderer, was also penalized for his role in obstructing justice and his involvement in the cover-up. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, losing all of his reputation and career in the process. Nguyễn Thị Mai's death and its aftermath served as a painful lesson about the destructive power of jealousy, betrayal, and blind love. The tragic love triangle shattered not only lives, but also a peaceful village community. The case closed with tears of remorse from all those involved, both the criminals and the innocent bystanders. What had happened was a powerful reminder of the devastating consequences of uncontrolled emotions, jealousy, and hatred. The quiet village slowly returned to its routine, but the bloody crime would remain etched in the memory of every villager, like a scar that would never fully heal. Today's story serves as a chilling reminder of the terrible consequences of jealousy and unchecked emotions. Love, when blinded, can lead to unforgivable actions and leave behind scars that may never heal. The peaceful village has returned to normal life, but this case will forever remain a scar in the memories of the people who lived through it. What do you think about this case? Thank you for watching Horrifying Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next horrifying story. See you in the next video.